Welcome to this webinar, during which we are going to be looking at the use of rotas and scheduling in Focus. For those not familiar with Focus, this is the main screen. It is divided up into different areas, including the drop-down menus across the top, the friendly icons here, and the tree view here on the left. What shows in the tree view depends on what we are doing with Focus at the time, as we shall see later. The area where most of the work is done is over here on the right, and you will see that we have multiple tabs open at the same time as we start to access different areas of the system. As you will know, if you use Focus, one of its strengths is the ability to enable users to manage by exception. This leaves them free to get on with life by easily directing them to the essential work that needs to be done on the system. Exceptions to do with clocking in and out and overtime are set up in the daily rule. Efficient and correct scheduling, therefore, is massively helpful to getting the best out of Focus. The workflow module can be used to alert users when there are exceptions to be dealt with, both to do with daily rules and items that need attention in the HR system. This even saves managers the time to go into the system and check. This is especially useful if you have devolved the responsibility for entering missing clockings, authorizing overtime, and booking holidays to your line managers or supervisors. We're not covering the workflow module today, so if you want any further information on this, just let me know. If you have been using Focus with central administration for a while and would like to discuss how easy it is to roll it out to managers to reduce paperwork, please get in touch. For those of you who don't know yet, a recent new feature in Focus is the ability to have up to 3 approval levels on the timesheets. If this is something you would like to implement in your system, please also get in touch with us. Today, we are going to look at daily rules and how they fit into the work schedule for regular patterns of work, how those work schedules can be used to populate the rota very quickly if necessary, and how daily rules can be assigned to the rota manually for random working. We will also see that there is a day planner for very detailed scheduling of employees where certain numbers of various types of employee or skills are required for a particular shift. For clarity then, the daily rule contains details of the start and end times, overtime and break rules, as well as the exceptions we want to highlight. The work schedule is for organizations with employees following predictable repeating work patterns, and rotas are used in organizations with more flexible or random working patterns and those wishing to pre-authorize overtime. And day plans are a way to schedule staff for specific events and projects with numbers of employees per shift and even a particular skill, if required. Let's have a look at daily rules. We're going to set up a basic daily rule today so that you can see the principles involved. More complex setups are obviously possible, as you can see by all the options available. If you would like some more information on any areas that we don't have time to cover today, please give us a call. We have a choice when creating daily rules of either duplicating from an existing rule that is close to the settings we want, or starting with a blank or new rule. Let's start with a blank rule in this case. Having clicked on the new icon, here we can enter a shortcode for a shift and then a description. Putting the start and end times in the description is useful if you are printing out a rota later. if I can get the numbers right. You can also put a department in there or something like that if you want to as well. We can state the standard hours of the shift, and this can be used to allocate things like holiday and sickness hours if required later. When you have lots of different length shifts, this can make things much easier when booking holiday. Next, let's set up the overtime. Between the start and end times, let's record basic, and after that, overtime. If you choose to, you can get the system to highlight when employees haven't worked enough hours or worked overtime that needs to be authorized, rather than paying it automatically, as we are showing today. Overtime can be authorized one record at a time or bulk authorized, depending on which is more efficient. We can either set up the break to be between certain times or after so many hours. I'm going to choose the latter today. Let's deduct a break after 6 hours and make it an hour long. As you can see, the focus system is very powerful when it comes to rules. Don't be satisfied with having to carry out multiple manual edits just to get the hours right for your employees. Talk to us about automating as much as possible to free up your time for more productive tasks. If you need other options in your business that we haven't covered today, please get in touch. There are so many things that we can do with focus in terms of calculations that we are yet to come across a situation we cannot handle. Work schedules. Remember, the work schedule is for organizations with employees following predictable repeating work patterns without the need to pre-authorize overtime. Work schedules can be assigned to one or many employees or groups across an organization. And a hint for doing this is if you want to allocate the work schedule to a whole group of people at the same time, you can right-click on that group in the employee tree, choose this option, and then choose from the many different things that you can set within the system globally for all those people at once. Group actions. So let's create a new work schedule. Again, we've got the opportunity to duplicate if we wanted to. So I've clicked on New, and we've got the blank work schedule showing. So again, we can put a short code in. I'm just create the description so that we can make sure we can see it later on to allocate it to people. A work schedule is made up of daily rules applied to the days of the week and can be anywhere from 1 to 400 days long to enable you to program in your shifts patterns. This includes things like double days, triples, continentals, 1, 4 off and more. There are 3 ways of doing this. Firstly, 1 rule per day. Is the one we created earlier, and you can either choose it like that from a list, or dependent on where it is, we can drag it in from a folder on the left hand side if that's what you prefer. So that's a very simple 1 week rule. You can also program in 2 or more daily rules in a day with auto allocation. This means that you don't mind which shift an employee works out of a range of shifts you choose to make available, and Focus will choose which shift to put the employee on based on their clocking times. If, however, you want to know that employees are working the shifts they are meant to, then use the rotating option by defining each week of the pattern specifically. Early's one week, late's the next, etc. For a 3-week cycle, we select 21 days here and fill in the other shifts accordingly. You can choose the week the employee is working in the schedule on their employee record. Moving on to rotas. If employees work more flexible shifts that don't have any patterns, the rota is used to fully define which daily rules employees work. Each employee can have multiple shifts per day where split shift working is his operation, or start and end times can be typed in. Rotas are used in organisations with more flexible or random working patterns and those wishing to pre-authorize overtime. Here we can choose the group to display in the rota. You can determine which groups show here and which groups each manager or supervisor has access to. The employees are listed down the side and the days of the week across the top. Moving between weeks can be done with the plus and minus, or just moving to a certain date. The order in which names are shown is up to you, with first and last name sorting orders by default available, and custom sorting. You create a custom sort by dragging names up and down the matrix. The colours behind the employee indicate their primary group, and we can append information to the employee name, giving their job title or other custom field information, making things as simple as possible for managers to understand who does what. Absences and unavailable days can show in the rota, so that you know when someone isn't available. If you have the employee self-service module, the employees can request holidays and let you know through the system when they are unavailable for whatever reason. There are several ways to populate the rota, as different people like to work in different ways. If you can think of one we don't cover today, we would like to hear about it. The easiest way to populate the rota is if you know that at least some of your employees work a fixed pattern of shifts, no matter how long that pattern is. Let's just blank out the week so that we can fill it in again. To add their shifts to the rota, we simply click here to highlight the matrix. Right-click and choose Populate from Work Schedule. If we just click OK, we populate with the default schedules set up against the employees. Here we can see the employees who have set schedules. They have had their shifts populated on the rota. You can also use the same method for changing shifts on a particular day if overtime needs to be pre-authorized, by selecting a day for the appropriate group and then populating from a schedule that has pre-authorized overtime. This can be done, you can populate the rota by week here, or by month in the availability screen, or per year in the employee's calendar. Manual rota creation. Daily rules are grouped in cost center folders over here in the tree on the left. Which cost center a daily rule comes from dictates which hours are allocated for cost center analysis later. We can simply drag shifts onto the matrix from the list on the left like this. Once an employee has had a daily rule applied to their rota, it can be selected on several days very quickly. Just click on the cell and this shift is available to be selected. Blank days are the employee's rest days. If you can use your daily rules in multiple cost centers, then you can use the cost center selection option up here and choose which cost center to record time into the employees against. Then drag any of the no cost center shifts onto the rota. You can also type in the start and end times directly into a cell, or get the system to search for daily rules using start time, using the find option, or just list all the daily rules available by selecting more once you have clicked on a cell. If an employee is already scheduled on another manager's rota, this will show so that double booking is prevented. As you create the rota, you can monitor hours and costs if you wish, with the budget being available to be set down here. Over budget turns red and bold, as you may have noticed. This can be used to match labour costs to expected sales as a guide to service provision levels. There is also the option to show a limit, so that managers are warned when employees have been scheduled over their limit set on the employee screen. Let your employees know when they are working by posting the rota report, or if you have employee self-service, the employees can look up when they are working online. If you are using rotating schedules, having a multi-week rotating pattern is the best way to monitor employee attendance. This enables detailed exception reporting and ensures correct employee attendance and pay, as employees only work on the shifts they are supposed to. The rota can be used to ensure that your manning levels meet your service and budget expectations. In hospitality, for example, there are understood ratios between staffing levels and income. The budget option on the rota allows HODs to see at a glance. Not only can you plan ahead, but after the fact you can report on actuals against plan. Whether you are an HOD or the FD, you have the figures at your fingertips. As you can see, the rota would be perfect for scheduling employees in the hospitality and care sectors, but the rota can also be used in manufacturing or food production, for example, for the pre-authorization of overtime. This allows managers to prevent exceptions being created in the first place by pre-planning shifts with overtime already authorized up to agreed levels. Day plan. Day plans are a way to schedule staff for specific events and projects with numbers of employees per shift and even a particular skill if required. We can get to the day plan by right-clicking on the day in question and choosing the day plan option. Or we can get there directly from the menus at the top here. If there are already daily rules allocated to the day plan, these will show here. The day plan can be used to ensure that you have the correct number of staff for a particular shift scheduled. If there are deficiencies in terms of numbers of employees, then the red exclamation marks alert the user accordingly. To add an employee to the day plan, simply click and drag them from the employee tree over to the matrix. If required, the correct number of staff with the appropriate skills can also be monitored. A skill within focus includes things like driver qualifications, kitchen and waiting staff, qualified nurses, machine operators, forklift truck drivers, first aiders, and other specific qualifications or experience. It is really easy to create skills in focus and then allocate them to staff. Let's create a new skill by opening up the skills screen. Click on New and type in the details. Let's use pizza maker and click on Save. We can then allocate that skill to an employee. Here on the Skills tab. More than one skill can be allocated to each employee, as you can see, and skills can be combined to make skill sets where an employee can carry out more than one role during a shift. Once the daily rules have been added to the Rota day plan, the skills can be added as well. Let me just go and find the skills a minute. Just refresh the list so that we can see the new one, and we can drag it on. And there we are. Once the day plan is complete, you can save it as a template for use again in the future. This can be useful for things like 50 or 100 cover weddings, a production line needing to produce a certain amount of one particular product, a particular printing press that needs appropriately trained personnel in certain numbers, or a particular project type or other situations. Once skills are in use, you will be informed by the system if you try to schedule an employee for a role they are not qualified to work. Alternatively, you can list the employees by skill and see who can do what, and then drag them onto the day plan as appropriate. This allows the schedule to be created by someone that doesn't know the employee's records by heart. If you're looking at today, on the day plan, employees appear in bold red before they have clocked in, and this allows you to see any deficiencies in resource quickly and easily as the shifts get underway. There is an information panel over on the right here that is populated when you hover over a name, and you can choose various options to show the level of detail you would like to see up here. If you need people informing in real time whether manning levels haven't been met, you can set up a no-show workflow email to run at certain times to alert managers or senior managers when manning levels are at risk of not meeting production requirements at or just after critical shift start times. The day plan is the way to ensure you don't get yourself into a pickle with a lack of suitably qualified staff. It also lets you easily see who hasn't turned up and what they were meant to be doing so that you can get a correctly qualified replacement in place as quickly as possible. The ability to view the number of qualified members of staff with a specific skill allows HR to ensure that there are sufficient numbers of appropriately trained staff in the business. We have seen how easy it is to set up daily rules and define work schedules, as well as schedule random working and demand-led situations. This ensures that you have the correct resources in the right place at the right time to enable you to continue to deliver for your customers. It is all about having the right people with the right skills in the right place at the right time. Thank you for watching this webinar today, and we look forward to hearing from you.